stuff we've been going through, and this is a testament because right before this I had a client, so I wasn't able to go live at noon, and that was beautiful because I was being in service to everything. So that just tells me that you guys are also doing a lot of work, and it's time for us to gain space to catch up, to honor the spaces that we may have stepped over or missed, and to establish ways of making sure that going forward we can stay on track, or we have habits and behaviors in our life that support us fully. So today, the only thing that we're going to be doing is establishing the foundation of routines, okay? Firstly, since we have been doing a lot of movement, the assignment is going to be to give practice, or the first assignment to give us practice into how to establish routines is going to be create reminders and things to create a routine for you that allows you to do physical movement at least for 20 to 30 minutes a day. Okay? A lot of us think that we may not have the extra time for this, but that is completely untrue. We can create the time, and it will actually be much more beneficial to engage in these practices of self-care because they free up other times in our day. What I mean by this is if you are somebody who is just normally busy, you have a normal schedule, you're not overly taxed, a really good idea is to meditate enough, right? To meditate once a day, meditate often. If you're super busy, that means you actually need to meditate more. And the reason for that is because as we begin to drain all of the facilities and faculties that we have, or use them to the fullest extent and ability, we often will get confuddled or lose the ability to create a sentence or not be able to focus and things like that. So the more that we need to focus, the more that we need to be able to be present within the moment, the more that we need to do things that allow us to be present in the moment because we're supporting our ability to stay so present. So if you're not being as engaged, you don't need as much help as if you were completely engaged or extremely engaged. You need a little bit more help, and that's just talking about our foundation. So, a couple things to clear the mind for allowing us to come into the building of a habit, or why we would need reminders in a routine to get us to do certain things, okay? For a bit, we've been talking about what it is like to go through certain things, go through certain behaviors, why we show up the way we do, understanding that our brain and the brain chemistry and how it's programmed is generally how we operate in the world. And a lot of us, got my notes again, a lot of us have the idea that we are fixed, that we don't change. And we've already been able to show through neuroplasticity and other studies that show us that we are a very placid being, that we can change and we can be completely different things. The only reason why we are stuck being the way we are is because we believe that every one of our past experiences we need to hold on to and we need to own, and that is what makes us up. When in reality, I think that our ambition makes us up a little bit more. Like what we want to do in the future is more indicative of who we are than what we've gone through, right? What we've gone through gives us this momentum into the future, and that momentum is what defines us in this moment, not where we've been, because we could have been having many different life experiences that bring us all to the same momentum, regardless of what the experience is. But it just is this idea of growth and momentum, and so that is who we are, really. So understanding a little bit about how we can program a habit or a behavior into who we are is very powerful knowledge. One of the biggest things to notice about this is that our brain, being that it is about 2% of the mass of our body, actually uses closer to 20% of the energy in our body. So the brain is just this energy sucker. It just uses a lot of energy. It wants to be super efficient when operating. When we're creating new neural networks, that actually takes a lot of energy because it's a new pathway, and our brains are navigating something that's unfamiliar, and so it requires a little bit more of finesse to be mindful of where these connections go. And as we continue to repeat things, that defines even further what the connection looks like, okay? If we constantly input different signals to try and create one habit, that actually doesn't help as much as trying to do one signal to create one habit. And I'm going to show you that pictorially really quick, if I may. So if we're trying to create a habit, and hopefully this shows up for you guys, we write down habit, and then we're going to write down input over here. So we're going to have an input that's going to lead to a habit. And every time that our brain needs to engage in something like this, or we do a behavior that is asking our brain to make our body do these things, it creates a neural connection, right, to this. The more different experiences that we have define that these connections will happen like this. If we do the same one, then it does this. And it continues. And see, this is a bigger connection than all of these separate ones. This takes less energy to maintain because they're kind of reinforcing this highway. This highway becomes reinforced. And so if we do it again, and let's say we want to do the same behavior, but we want to have multiple stimuli, let's just focus on one behavior at a time, changing it from one stimuli to the next as this behavior grows. So I'm going to establish this one, and then I'll establish this one, and then I'll do this one, and then I'll do this one. And so now I've got all these highways that are very efficient. What I mean by this efficiency is that the ability for us to send signals down this pathway. You can't send very many down this one. It's just like if our little signal is this big and it's trying to fit through here, it doesn't move very quickly. When we have a lot of this support, it goes right through, super easy, right? It's a highway. This is a tiny little road. It's like a dirt road. This is a highway. What this looks like in the physiology of the brain is the myelin sheath becomes reinforced around these nerve endings. The myelin sheath, and that is just the fatty tissue that helps to conduct the electric signals. When that sheath is more present, that's when your habit feels comfortable and it becomes innate. That's all we have to get through to make something happen for us. Really simple and also kind of complex, right? So to understand that our brains want to be efficient means that if we are conscious in how we engage the creation of habits, the more let's say, effective our creation of this habit will be. And what I mean by that is, if we're trying to create a routine, such as doing physical activity every day, why don't we just start with, instead of trying to get to this 100% routine, we break it up and we say, I'm going to approach this 100% by doing 1% of it a day. And so this is just a cumulative effect, right? I'm going to do 1% today, 1% tomorrow, 1% the next day. And going through that means that over time we lead to this 100%, which at the beginning of our process seemed monumental from our ego's perspective. But when you break it down and you lay it out, you write it out, it is much, much more manageable. So much more comfortable to do. It doesn't seem so daunting. And so we can go into that space. And what this might look like, so I said 20 to 30 minutes of exercise, right? Of movement, of mindful things. And I gave you a variety of examples within the description of what you could do. And it's the process is completely dictated by you and what's for your grace and highest good. So if it's just that you need to stretch, then do that, right? If it's just I need to move and get on a walk, then why don't we just go ahead and set up situations, a timer, a care regiment or something, and we can write it down so we have an automated, we can look at it and we know what to do for each next step. So for today, my 1% might just look like becoming comfortable going on a walk. Tomorrow, I'm going to become another little bit comfortable. And over time, you have 30 days of this 1% that are all being cumulative, and now you're at 30% comfortability. And then eventually you get to 100% comfortability in a habit. So number of days is a little bit skewed right there because on the best, most applicable scenario that's fully supported to create a habit, it takes 21 days. That means that you have 21 days to give your full attention to the creation of this habit. How many of us do that? You can put your hand down. I don't even do that. So it generally will actually take more time than that to establish a routine. So the best case scenario is 21 days, and that's just the minimum amount of time with the maximum amount of effort, okay? But if we are unable to do that, such as we can only give 1% today, then we're going to push that out to about 2 months, okay? If we're only going to do the bare minimum, it's about 2 months, about 60 days or so, and that establishes the habit within the brain, okay, the neurological network, and that's where it becomes comfortable. So knowing that you have 60 days to create some type of new habit is very powerful. So for 60 days, you can write down something that you're going to do to get you to your goal, and every new day could be something different. Or for today, let's say if we want to do a running exercise or get to being able to run for 30 minutes every day, regardless of our physical condition, of course, first make sure it's okay with our doctor. Then we can say, okay, so today I'm actually going to do 15 minutes of stretching and then 5 minutes of a walk. And then tomorrow I'm going to do 14 minutes of stretching and 6 minutes of a walk. And maybe you're only doing a warm-up as your walk. So you're just getting into your warm-up. So you're doing a stretching, and then you're going to do your warm-up, and then once your warm-up is done, you go into a run. Okay, so a small run, and then eventually it turns into a bigger run, and continuing on that way. Writing it down, literally writing it down, is going to be the best way to allow this to be an automated procedure for you outside of your mind. Because again, unless you have all of your time to focus 100% of your energy on creating this habit, it's generally going to seem very daunting when it's all stuck up in here. Because up here, we're seeing 100% of the product, or the procedure. But if we're allowed to remove that, and we only need to focus on 1% of that right in this moment, that's super easy. I can do my 15 minutes of stretching, and I can do my 5-minute walk. That doesn't seem daunting, right? That's those little progressions. So that is the goal for today's assignment. And we can actually see a little bit more research. There's a book out there called The Slight Edge, which is kind of what I'm referring to on this 1% mentality of growth. Doing this 1% continuously over time leads us to this 100%. And the author of Slight Edge is Jeff Olson. So you can look that up if you'd like. The cool thing about his work is it kind of shows, like, if we are going to apply something and we have 1% for our benefit or 1% for our, not our benefit, over a period of time, we can see how the accumulation of these 1% of benefit actually add up. But if we're doing things that are counter to those, such as I want to get good with my diet, that's the habit I want to create, or let's just actually keep with the physical activity and go with the walk. So if my 1% for today is that I do 15 minutes of exercise, of stretching, and then 5 minutes of a walk, and I continue, and that's like the positive input of my progression. And let's say the next day I do a negative input of my progression, so I don't even do my exercise, right? Well, those 2 days have canceled each other out to a 0. But for 5 days, if I progress, and then now I have a plus 5% to my goal, and I don't do any negatives, you can see that over time, as its time stretches, people who are able to continuously add just a little bit to their goal have a much bigger gain than the people who are really wishy-washy, and their positive behaviors negate their negative, or the negative behaviors negate the positive behaviors, right? And so over time, the people who are constantly progressing, their ability continues to grow, and those other people who aren't doing this kind of thing, this little by little thing, chipping away at the tree, so to speak, with one swing at a time of your axe, you notice there's a bigger discrepancy of effectiveness over time. And so it's really powerful to be able to see that type of a thing. Really cool thing, another piece of information that I found is that about 40 to 45% of what we do in a day is habitual. So that means that prior to this time, you've spent a long time producing habits that support you innately for 40 to 45% of your day. That's pretty powerful. So that automatically says that we do have the ability to produce habits and behaviors that are beneficial for us. So knowing that means that we have the ability to take that to say that yes, these routines and whatnot are here for us and they can happen. We can create new structures, because if our life is dictated by these structures, then obviously our brain is set up in a way to be able to incorporate these things in our lives. So if we choose to put one of these things in our lives, then we're actually being mindful of our life instead of just being haphazard and letting it kind of run really willy-nilly. What if 40% of what you do during the day is mindfulness of habits? So it's habits that you've created out of mindfulness that are all of benefit to you, in comparison to another person who has 40% of their habits that are based on willy-nilly things and not mindfulness at all. So they're dictated by perhaps outside circumstances. They're dictated by maybe their emotions. Their certain state of being is not dictated within their control. It's dictated by everything else, right? Randomness. But you are this mindful person, and you have mindfully built up your habits. And so now you have authority over your life. You have autonomy and sovereignty over your life instead of the other way around. Very interesting and very different. To continue with that, one of the things that we really need to know is one of the effective measures of our brain, and this is why we know we can also do this kind of exercise, is the reward center of our brain. So our brain literally only wants the dopamine hit. That's like the basic thing. I need a reward, and then it creates a positive pathway in my brain for this to happen, or let me say a supported pathway. By positive, I mean supported, but let me change the lingo and say it's a supported pathway. So to support this pathway, I'm going to have a stimulus and I'm going to get a positive reward. Not a supported reward, not a positive one, a supported reward. That doesn't mean that every single thing that we do, that we create a habit for, is beneficial. When we are creating habits, the only thing we're really engaging in is that reward center of the brain. So we do something, we get the dopamine, and then it creates a supported reason for this experience. Now, if that's scrolling Facebook, some things are designed to trigger dopamine hits within us. Facebook is one of them. A lot of social media, TV shows, things like that. Sugar does that too. It does a little bit differently in the body, but it triggers a supported mechanism that says, yes, this feels good. But over a long period of time, having a habit with sugar has been shown to not be helpful to an overall being. But the ability for us to create the habit is still there. So it's very interesting, and it requires us to be mindful about how we're building ourselves up. If we choose to not If we choose to not be mindful, then we will have a whole bunch of habits that are on the gamut of beneficial or detrimental to us, right? When we become mindful, we start to shift the ones that are detrimental into the idea of them being beneficial to us. So understanding that you're operating with a system that is strictly based on its ability to get dopamine means that you can choose what stimulus gives it dopamine, or you can be mindful of the behaviors that you engage in to give it dopamine. So the more that you do things to give it dopamine, such as working out, which is why it's a really good idea to do this first as far as a routine, is because you establish that as you do something, you get a benefit. And it's a conscious thing that puts you into your body and it connects you to your mind. So an active, mindful workout of some form. And you get this positive association, this supported association with small progression and a positive outcome. So it's very, very powerful. So your assignment is to set up a routine that establishes a habit for you. Okay? This could mean engaging the timers on your phone. This could mean using an app such as, there was one app that I found that was super cool. I lost it in my notes. I apologize for that. But there's apps to help you form habits. This one, it's called Tree something. Oh, there it is. It's called the Forest app. And all it's designed to do is help you understand that as you spend time investing in something, then you grow things. Okay, and so in this app, I think it allows you to plant seeds, and as you engage in certain behaviors, the seed grows. And so it's kind of a way to keep track and give you a visual of your growth. Kind of a little game in that, but you choose how you want to engage in your creation of your mindfulness and of your habits. For this, I've already said, write it down so that you can look at what you're supposed to do today and have it automated, because if all of that is up here, it's 100% daunting instead of 1% in the moment. Okay? So write it down, and you could just be kind to yourself and write down what it looks like for the next 60 days. By the end of the next 60 days, you should have a habit that is fully supported and very autonomous in that, and then it continues on its own with little stimuli, okay? Understanding, though, that our environment also dictates how supported we are within our stimuli. So if my environment is in opposition to supporting a certain behavior, we need to recognize that, and we need to take actions in the moment to modify that, or slowly modify that over time, right? If it happens to be that we're just in the wrong circumstance, then maybe we need to save up and move to a different circumstance. But write down what it looks like for you to build XYZ habit, and this is going to be of movement, okay? So if it's just something as simple as writing it on your calendar that you can check a box off, perfect. But label what you are going to do so that it's super easy for you, okay? You're supporting yourself. So your assignment is to share this video, this nice long video. How long has it been going? Oh, a little bit now, quite a bit now. So share the video, comment about what physical exercise you're going to be creating as a habit, and feel free to also change that if you decide that you need to do that, because if you're engaging in a habit that is not going to be for your greatest and highest good, change it around. It's okay. It's perfectly fine. We can just understand that maybe it's easier to change the outcome of a habit halfway through, such as for a physical one, saying maybe I want to set up a physical routine of running, when maybe that just doesn't work for you and you need to do yoga instead. Well, if you've already done the practice of 15 minutes of stretching and 5 minutes of walking, you're kind of already halfway there because you have a routine of stretching going. So you're already building into the support structure of a future outcome, regardless if you are going to become a runner or you're going to go into yoga. So understand how you're creating this is very mindful, okay? We have the complete ability to change. And that is the practice for now, okay? So this is the start of it. You're going to start your routine. And the next couple days is going to be the implementation and support of those routines. So we're going to see how we go about that. But for now, make sure you use the tags of 90-Day Happiness Challenge. Tag me, Matthew Embrey-McClain Shamanic Happiness Coach. When you're posting, make sure you share the video. You post, and it's got instructions in the comments. Share your story about what you're doing and how you're going about setting up your routine so that it becomes a habit. What does it look like step by step? If at times in this challenge you have not delved very deep into your assignment, this is an assignment to spend time on, okay? We're going to be focusing on this one for a couple days. So feel free to catch up with other past assignments if you need to do that so that you can get caught up with those postings, because at the end of the 30 days, so you only have 3 days until I draw the winner for a free session with me. What else can I say? Dun, dun, dun. That's it for now, I'm pretty sure. Yes, so for today, go be happy, go start your routine, go put in your 1% towards your ultimate goal of 100% making a physical routine, and yeah, you're here to go. You're here. You're on your way. We're doing it. So I'm super happy to help facilitate this, gaining a physical routine, because just a physical routine, in case you didn't know, I'm trying to set up a space for you to have an easy way to release stuck energy in your body by getting you to move. There you go. You're welcome. So with light and love, I say namaste, enjoy your day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.